that smart guy you knew in college who's really funny and says the thing that you were thinking and wish you could say.
John was hitting his stride, and his audience was growing, but he had only begun to tap into the potential of creating fake news. The beginning of 2000 not only marked John's first anniversary as anchor of The Daily Show, it was also an election year. The staff of The Daily Show knew the media would cover every step the candidates took, and they also knew they could spin that coverage into comedy gold.
Jon Stewart took over the show in 1999, and that first year was a process of sort of weeding out the old guard and moving over into a new direction. And that really crystallized with the 2000 election.
I'm calling it Indecision 2000. Brilliant, just on the face. I mean, it automatically, instantly tells you what this is going to be about.
Tom Jefferson's going to get you!
Right, I think that's better.
The show threw resources at this. They didn't just, have a correspondent at the conventions. They had 94 people, dispersed. You can't get any more establishment than a convention, and they were able to attack this in a way that you just don't really see.
We are appealing to our own sense of wonder at the absurdity of what we consider the theater. It's spin and counterspin, and then I'm part of the, for a lighter look, which candidate is funnier? You come to me.
Well, I think Stewart came onto the larger screen, his Indecision 2000 coverage, which of course turned out perfectly for him because Indecision is exactly what it turned out to be. It looked like a prophet.
The whole fiasco after the election in 2000 was so incredibly frustrating for people, and I think when The Daily Show was there as an outlet for people for their frustrations, that's probably when they first got their audience.
John went from reporting the fake news to making real headlines when his faux coverage of the election ended up winning an Emmy and a Peabody Award. Almost overnight, the Comedy Central funny man became a sought-after guest on legitimate news outlets, wanting him to sound off on the issues of the day, like drilling in Alaska.
That whole thing has been overstated by environmentalists. First of all, what is it, rocks and snow? Come on, how much of that, you want that? Go to Canada, my friend. Believe me, rocks and snow are overrated. I've seen otters. They look better covered in oil.
The summer of 2001, The Daily Show had a nightly audience of 500,000 people, as Stewart made jokes about Bush's fledgling presidency. Then, on September 11th, John watched the towers fall from his apartment window. The New York Times declared that irony was dead, and all of a sudden, the news was no longer a laughing matter.
That was a very, very tense moment because there was this notion that you were not allowed to be funny. You could not be funny. And, if you were funny, you were somehow being just tasteless.
After 9/11, everyone was very scared and on tenterhooks about how do you be funny about something that just is so terrifying, literally. The Daily Show and Jon Stewart, they were really one of the first to say, look, you can make fun of anything if you do it the right way.
I think just in general, there was a fragile time for everything. People talk about the Holocaust as the greatest example of inhumane times. But my guess is, even at Auschwitz, people were telling jokes. It's human nature to find light in darkness, somehow.
Regardless, many things were off limits. When politically incorrect host Bill Maher famously called the terrorist act not cowardly, even the White House weighed in on what was appropriate and what was not.
They're reminders to all Americans that they need to watch what they say, watch what they do, and this is not a time for remarks like that. There never is.
That's the hardest thing to do in comedy or in entertainment generally, is to take something which is not inherently funny or inherently unfunny and make a joke about it. And Stewart has a knack for doing that in his writing and in his delivery.
There is no desire here to purposefully offend. But on the flip side of that, you can't avoid offending people because you don't know where their line, you know, to say to me, where's the line, isn't really the question. It's to go out to all the people and say, where's your line? Because everybody in our audience has a different one. People's sense of humor goes as far as their ideology.
As the news from around the world got scarier, John and The Daily Show became funnier.
Outrageous upon human dignity. That's a statement that is wide open to interpretation.
I'll give you an example. All right, look at this. Okay. Some people say that's torture. To me, that looks like cheerleader practice.
In February of 2002, John got to yuck it up for his biggest audience ever when he was asked to host the Grammys at the last minute.
Whoopi Goldberg dropped out a week before the show was to go on, which leaves producers in a real fix because these things are produced within an inch of their lives. And they called on Jon Stewart. And the very first thing he does is walk through the fake metal detector at the airport. And these two enormous security men proceed to strip him down to his boxers. He's going to, bear himself at his own expense because he doesn't care about the trappings of, of glamour and looks. It's just about the comedy.
The praise and awards kept stacking up for Stewart, including the 2003 Emmy for Best Variety Show, an award Letterman had won the 5 previous years.
20 minutes a day, it takes this many people?
Yes, it does. It's a very impressive feat to fake the news for 20 minutes a night.
However, one award that John didn't need to clear space for was an Oscar for his performance in the 2003 bomb, Death to Smoochie.
Death to Smoochie is a very weird movie about children's entertainers. But it's not a movie for children, it's kind of like a black satire. And it's one of those films that you can see how the script would have been funny, but the film just lies there. It's kind of awful. Ed Norton is in it, and Robin Williams is in it, and Jon Stewart is in it. And again, he's not the worst thing in it. His haircut may be the worst thing in it.
This is it. This is the guy.
We can do better than Sheldon Mopes. Come on, he brings nothing to the table.
Except ethics. With Mope's never been a whiff of controversy. The guy's a harmless, ethical cornball.
Please don't make me do it.
He's a bottle of pancake syrup with legs.
Frank.
Get me Smoochie.
That's the movie that Jon Stewart uses as the punchline about his acting career probably the most often. If he's talking about his career in the context of the utter wasteland disaster that it has been over the past decade, Death to Smoochie is #1 on his list, and with good reason, because that is a truly, truly awful movie.
Jon Stewart is at his funniest when he's at his most intelligent. He's not someone that could heartily throw himself into broad comedy. He's always been just a little bit too bright for that.
Coming up, John and his staff build a fake news empire. Sort of.